I was an account director in marketing with a very different life back in just before 2014. And in 2014, I had a life-changing accident. I was actually diagnosed with a lot of mental health disorders in the aftermath, and one of those was fear of the road. You move your comfort zone, and fear is something that we can learn to shift, conquer, and push our boundaries. Absolutely love the racing. It's disgusting. It's sadistic. Like, people think, oh, you've got an engine. It can't be that hard. You're burning 6,000 to 8,000 calories a day. My most recent race was 13 days.
I am Jordan Rushworth, host of the Athlete Sit Down with Sport Endorse, where we chat to inspiring athletes to hear their unique journey into the world of sports. Sport Endorse are a global leader in connecting brands with the ideal athlete to forge powerful partnerships and increase exposure for both sides alike. With access to over 5,000 athletes across 90 different disciplines, Sport Endorse is your go-to platform to find a perfect athlete fit for your social media campaign, brand ambassador role, or keynote speaking engagement. Hello there, welcome to the Athlete Sit Down, brought to you by Sport Endorse. Joining me today on this podcast is a high-profile rider and adventurer, as well as an award-winning TEDx speaker, someone who has fought adversity to go on to conquer harsh landscapes such as the Sahara Desert and the Belize rainforest. It is the wonderful Vanessa Ruck, otherwise known as the girl on a bike. How are you today?
Hey, I am doing very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No, thank you for being here. So I know that a lot of people know your story. You're very well known in the biking community, especially in the UK. But just for some context for someone that doesn't know your story, would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a full-time motorcycle rider, racer, adventurer, and also more recently four-wheel rally car driver. But a lot of people don't realise that I've actually not been doing motorsports for very long. My journey in life followed a slightly unusual path, and I think there will probably be many people listening to this who can relate to the hurdles and challenges that life throws at us. It's quite common. I was an account director in marketing with a very different life back in just before 2014. And in 2014, I had a life-changing accident. And through my recovery, which really took 7 years, I changed life quite a lot and went on a completely different journey, discovered motorcycles, fell in love with motorcycles, got addicted to motorcycles, and then it's easy to say it escalated. And as my body has sort of continued to get fitter and stronger through that recovery, which has faced 7 surgeries, so 7 times being like cut open, learning how to walk again, I've discovered motorcycles and started to push myself a lot more competitively, the skill, the fitness, and I've since competed in some of the toughest off-road motorcycle races there are in the world, including most recently in January becoming the first British female to ever finish the original Dakar route in the Africa Eco Race, which is a 6,013-day race. And these are pretty tough races. To put it in context, most of these races, unfortunately, there'll be someone that doesn't come home. They're very, very tricky. And I'm doing it living and managing chronic pain as a result of my accident. But I suppose something that's really important to me through my journey is the realization that actually we need to get up and adapt. We need to keep fighting. Stuff that happens in our life isn't always in our control. You know, I couldn't change the accident. I can stop that car from having jumped that red light, but I could control my today. My actions today shape my future. And so I've kind of gone on a mission alongside my obsession with motorcycles and cars to try and share some of the energy, the tools that helped me keep going, help me set goals and get up and fight for them to come true, because it's quite incredible what we can achieve and what gratitude we can find in the low moments through mental health and everything. I'm also a talker, so you ask me a question, I give you quite a long answer. But in a short answer, I do a lot of my time on motorcycles and more recently motorsports, and I share that with the world through my social media channels.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great that you're a talker. That's why we've got you on here. So you mentioned obviously that your love for motorbikes came after your accident. Was there anything? Why motorbikes? Why not something else? Maybe windsurfing? You know. something like
Or
that.
knitting. I mean, knitting would have been a lot more preferable for my
Exactly.
mum.
It's a lot
It would have
safer.
been a lot safer, definitely. I guess I was quite fortunate that growing up I got to be around ponies, and you always fall off the horse. Like, that's just what happens. I think their sole purpose in life is to put their rider on the ground, really. And when you fall off, you get back on. My whole childhood, my parents always told me, you get back on the horse. You know, you get knocked down, you learn from it, and you come back and you keep going. And with the accident, I mean, I was actually diagnosed with a lot of mental health disorders in the aftermath. One of those was fear of the road, clinically diagnosed with fear of the road. So it was not an easy process deciding I wanted to go out and get a motorcycle. But there was the fact that I couldn't let this accident control my future. I was the only person that had the control over what my future life was going to look like. And I was also very determined, and probably stubborn is a good word, to not allow the lady that hit me to have that kind of control over me. I had to overcome it. The fear side, I'm also aware that through a lot of the sports that I do, I'm very aware that fear is very much a movable line. You know, the first time you do something, it can be really, really scary. The second time you do it, it's probably still terrifying. Let's just take an example of on a motorcycle, riding down a curb on the side of the road. I can tell you that I still remember, probably 5 years ago, riding down a curb on a motorcycle scared me. And it's a step like this. But on a motorbike, you've got the whole equipment. It's big, it's heavy, you could fall off, it's unstable. But the first time you go down a curb, really scares you. Second time you go down a curb, probably still really scares you. But you do it again, and probably by the 5th, maybe the 10th, maybe the 30th time, you know what? The curb's not going to kill me. I'm okay with the curb. And you move your comfort zone. And fear is something that we can learn to shift, conquer, and push our boundaries. Maybe a slightly easier example for people listening is the first time you went 30 miles an hour in a car. Think back to when you first started driving. My goodness, 30 miles an hour felt fast. But then you go 40 miles an hour and 30 doesn't feel as quick. And then once you've passed and you go on a motorway and you're going 70, 30 definitely doesn't feel quick. But it's how we can use our life to move our comfort zones and push our fear. Now, every time I got on the road, I freaked out. I was scared. I would say the first time, 10th time, 50th, 200th time I got on a motorbike, I freaked out. I had moments and I had breakdowns. The amount of times I've cried in my helmet. And you don't realize how awkward it is going in a motorcycle helmet. You know, you've got a helmet on, you've got big gloves on, you can't really get your hand in because you've got this visor. And then there's like liquid in your helmet, which then steams up, but then you can't see. And it's all a bit of a mess. And I laugh about it now, but I can tell you at the time, there was nothing to laugh about. I was freaking out in my helmet. But I knew that I had to be kind to myself. I'd had trauma. You know, I got hit by a car and my life changed irreversibly. And I now have pain as a result of it. And a 95% certainty of more surgery being needed. But, you know, I'm not a gambler, so I'm not going to take that as a good thing. Like, I had to overcome it. And I knew that with time, being kind to myself, listening to myself, I could work through it and push my comfort zone and not let it control me. And so that's kind of what I did.
I mean, it's certainly inspirational. But so you had this accident. You then, I'm guessing you started riding bikes on the road, motorbikes on the road.
Yes.
When did you decide to take on these sort of huge adventures that most people wouldn't even dream of doing, let alone without sustaining these sort of injuries that you have?
Yeah, so it was definitely a stepping stone journey. 7.5 years ago when I started off-road riding, if you'd said to me then, in 7.5 years' time, you're going to finish the original Dakar route, I would have totally choked on my drink and laughed at you. Like, no way. I mean, I can't even ride across a flat grass field without feeling like a Bambi. So it wasn't like I suddenly woke up one morning and went, I'm going to land on the moon goal-wise. But I did set goals. Now, my first decision to get an off-road motorcycle actually happened 2 days after I got home from my third surgery. So it was my first surgery on my hip. I was bedbound. I couldn't even get to the toilet on my own. I was dependent on my husband for help. And I woke up in the morning and just to be really honest, I wasn't in a great place. Mentally, physically, I was in a dark hole. I was not feeling great. And I decided that I wanted to get a dirt bike. And my husband was like, wait, what? Look at you. You kind of put your own socks on. And quick note to anyone listening is that surround yourself with people that say yes when you come up with crazy ideas and who will support you. And so my husband is incredibly supportive. We went out and got me my first dirt bike, who I called Wiz. But it was 5 months until I could even sit on that bike. But every day that I was hurting and I couldn't find the energy to do my physio, I wanted to quit, that bike was sat there as a reminder. And I think goal setting is a really, really powerful tool in life. And it's actually quite simple. Like, it's not dramatic, a big brain overhaul to try and set some goals. And it's something that I really try and pass on to other people, that the power of setting that goal locks your vision, it locks your sight onto something that you're energized for, you're motivated about, you're passionate about. And that gives you so much power through the ups and the downs of our energy levels, which are normal. Like through the week, through the day, our energy levels change. Just a bad night's sleep can change how much fight we have in a day. And those goals can be this stable target that we're working towards. And so I decided to get this dirt bike. I still remember the first few times I rode it, many times I rode it. I was useless. It was like I'd never ridden a bike before. But I quickly realized that this was something that I really enjoyed. Now, since I got that bike, I've had 4 more hip surgeries. So over those last 7.5 years. But I was always just on this mission where my goal had been set. I wanted to learn to ride an off-road motorcycle. The more I got on that bike, the more I wanted to get better on the bike. So there was times where I wasn't able to be on the bike because I'd had surgery, and I was like, what can I do right now to be a better motorcycle rider? Okay, I can't get on the bike because I'm broken and it's too risky, but what can I do that will help me moving forwards? And so I started just standing in the garage on the motorbike, engine off. My husband would stand there and balance the bike, and I just stood on the bike and balanced. And it sounds ridiculously lame, just, going out to the garage, standing on your bike. I definitely made brum brum brat noises, by the way. But I balanced, and the balancing on the bike, I got my personal best of 15 minutes, engine off, track standing on the bike, balancing it still. Once I was then able to actually ride the bike, the improvement in my balance from that time was huge for my riding. And it was a way that I was able to mentally feel like I was working towards my goals as well. We can't always do what we want to do, what we wish we could be doing, but it's about trying to find things that you can do that will keep you moving forwards. And I'm a better rider as a result of it, that's for sure. My mental health, and it was also kind of good physio because hip stability is massively improved with that kind of balance as well.
Well, you're definitely a step-by-step process, a long process. So what was like, obviously, you've been on so many adventures, I can't even count. I've been looking through them and they seem, unbelievable. What was sort of the best adventure or the standout one that you've been on? Obviously, the Dakar is incredible, but has there been any others?
Yeah. So I've now done 10 multi-day international rallies, which is pretty impressive. I only did my first rally late summer in 2021. So in really 2.5 years, I've racked up some serious experience in rally racing. And that was just through pure determination that I just wanted to get better, do another one. The best way to train is to be out there doing these events. Absolutely love the racing. It's disgusting. It's sadistic. Like, people think, oh, you've got an engine, it can't be that hard. You're burning 6,000 to 8,000 calories a day. My most recent race was 13 days. Many of the races are 6-8 days. My longest day on a bike, 13.5 hours. Peak riding temperature I've been in is 52 degrees. Picture a hot tub at 40 degrees. How long can you sit in it? Being on a motorcycle, 52 degrees, I felt like my body was shutting down. And if someone's listening that's thinking, you've got an engine, again, I've just said quite a few stats that hopefully counter that. But think about just walking in deep sand compared to walking along on hard pack. Then think, what's it like to run in deep sand? What about trying to ride a bicycle in deep sand? Then picture a 177 kilo motorcycle. I'm 62 kilos, 177 kilo motorcycle that is pretty useless. It doesn't even stand up on its own. So you're wrestling that through 4, 5, 600 kilometers of terrain across the desert in North Africa. It's incredibly physical. So I think for my most incredible adventure, the achievement having made it to the finish line of the Africa Eco Race in Dakar was absolutely huge. There was about a 50% finish rate this year of the motorcycles that were on the start line to making the finish line, just to put into context how much of a fight it is to get to the end of these events. When it comes to like an adventure, riding, scenery, culture kind of trip, Iceland is always my number one favorite. Now, it's probably the least likely country you would say as far as a lot of fair weather riders, on a motorcycle, typically people think you want sunshine and warm skies. And Iceland is like wet from below, wet from above, sideways wind, 1 minute's rain, next it's hail, then it's snow, then sunlight come out. It's like crazy as a weather place for a motorcycle, cold and wet. But the scenery is absolutely unreal. Like 1 minute you're on Pluto, then it feels like you're in Mars, then you go to Jupiter, lava fields, volcanic ash and sand. This is absolutely mind-blowing. So I'd say Iceland, for sort of the adventure side, has been my favourite country to ride a motorbike in.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Iceland. The scenery is just incredible. Is that so? Do you prefer these races where the scenery is amazing, or that where you're really like testing yourself mentally and physically?
Honestly, the problem with these races is you don't get to look around too much because you're following roadbook navigation. So a quick one, roadbook navigation is a paper scroll that you have on your handlebar in a box, and it's a whole load of symbols. You've got your kilometers, some symbols, some abbreviations that are all in French, just to make it a little bit easier, why not? And then compass bearings, so cap headings. And that's how you're navigating through the desert. So you are mentally so engaged. There's no GPS, there's no Google Maps. You get lost, you got to go back and try and find where you were last 100% sure of where you were, restart and have another crack at it. Like, it's very, very full on the brain. And then you're racing a motorcycle off-road. So it's incredibly physical, which means you do get to look around. And, when you're out on the bike for many, many hours in the day, you do have to stop and have a pee. And while you're peeing, you'll be like, whoa, look where I am. This is a place to pee. This is amazing. But you don't absorb the landscape to the same extent as if you're just sort of an adventure ride on a holiday. You don't stop to take pictures in the same kind of way. One benefit I definitely have in what I do is that because I'm making YouTube series of every single race and event that I do, when I then get to the editing and the creation of these videos, I get to relive the adventure, which is really cool too. I can be like, wow, I rode through that.
Yeah, I didn't even see that the first time, and now you sort of you actually get to spend time and enjoy it. Yeah, it must be nice. Who do you for the races? Do you do them on your own, or is there someone you do them with?
So yeah, I race completely solo when I'm out there on the bike. I'm out there every so often. You'll meet another competitor who's a similar pace, and you might kind of ride together, not teaming up as such, but just kind of. It's a very barren, unforgiving place being out in the middle of the desert on your own. And just sometimes having that comfort of a total stranger is quite nice. But by and large, you're on your own out there. You then have your support team in the bivouac. So the bivouac is like the rally camp. And in most of these races, it moves. So as you go off and race, the bivouac moves. And you stay in your tent and they've got all your gear, and then you go out and race and the bivouac moves again. So I typically will have my mechanic who will be supporting a handful of bikes. And then for this most recent race, I actually had my mechanic and a couple of people in the content team to help me with the filming and looking after me through the race. So I had a very good support team, which to me, that support team is your foundation. And if you've got the foundation right, you've got the best chance to get out there and race and do well and keep going. So I sort of tried to set myself up for success. So thankfully it worked. Yay!
So even though you're very mentally strong, there is someone that you can sort of fall back on if it really does get as tough as I'm sure it does.
Yeah, the team are always very well briefed on, if I get to a low, this is how you need to deal with me. Like, this is when you need to punch me in the face and tell me to woman up. This is when, you probably just need to give me a hug. All the different scenarios of what Vanessa's personality is going to do through the week. There's nothing glamorous about rally, I can tell you that.
So is it normally the same team that sort of comes with you everywhere, or do you have like a different team per race that has done it before?
My mechanic, same guy from the start, a guy called Joe from Desert Rose Racing. He's my guy. I trust him with my bike. He knows my personality. Good banter, and banter's critical because it's tough. These races are not easy, and having someone that gets you is really important.
Yeah, can uplift you and knows exactly how to bring you up, or when you need, a talking to, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you're a role model, obviously. You've got 160,000 on Instagram followers that follow you everywhere you go, all the stuff you're doing. And motorbiking usually has connotations of danger and injury. So how do you reconcile your former trauma with an activity that is so potentially dangerous?
Yeah, I think it would be very easy to try and bubble wrap yourself through life once you've had sign of a big accident and injury. It would be the safer option. I'll be honest with that. My mum would definitely be happier. My husband would probably be happier as well. It's not easy for him having me go off to the desert and him watching a dot on a map. But I think the reality is that we can get injured and hurt through all kinds of things in life. If you look at statistics, people wouldn't go to the toilet. People die on the toilet. Like, people break legs in the shower. There's dangerous things all around us. Now, for me on a motorcycle, when I'm off-road, the risks are a lot lower to me than they are if I'm on a road in the city. The sorry, mate, I didn't see you side of things, I definitely feel more vulnerable when I'm on the road. I always encourage people to gravitate towards the off-road world, and it's down to you. You're riding the terrain. And obviously taking the extreme racing and rally doing, I think, is a little bit separate. But I think generally motorbikes have a good portion of controllability of that risk. Always wearing the right gear. Always making sure that when you're getting on that bike, you've got your knee frames, your helmet, your gloves, the right protection. That's really important. Working on your skills so that you're a better rider. You're less likely to fall off. There's actually a skill to falling off, believe it or not. Or realizing, like, if you're doing a really big hill climb, you can tell whether you're going to make the top of the hill climb quite early on. But as a novice rider, you've got that, I'm going to make it. And then before you know it, you've looped your bike out and you learn to notice, I'm not going to make it, and you can bail out safely as opposed to having an explosion. So there's lots of things to kind of control that risk. When it comes to me being a role model, I think I'm very honest with the world in that I'm not anyone special. I'm literally just a little me trying my best in life. I don't always get it right. Sometimes things I do might not be the right thing, but I just try and do my best in life. I do a lot of school talks. So I've spoken to over 18,000 school children in the last couple of years, which is something that I do for free. And my corporate speaking helps me fund me being able to give myself to schools for free. And, when I'm stood there in front of a whole load of young minds, I'm not telling them I'm some kind of superwoman. I'm not. I'm just a normal human like them. I've gone through the challenges that life throws at all of us. Everyone has battles. Everyone wants to quit sometimes. And then I just try and share some of the things that have helped me keep going, some of the things that help motivate me, help keep me kind of energized and focused. And I think sometimes my idea of being a role model is being real and not pretending to be anything I'm not, putting on a whole load of filters and fake stuff and sharing the full reality of social media. I think across all the platforms, I've got about 500,000 followers, and I'll share the highs and the lows. And I think social media is full of a little bit of a toxic environment because most people just share that top shiny stuff, the bit that makes their life look glamorous and beautiful and perfect and healthy. And I'm sorry, but it's not. We all have challenges and struggles. So my kind of take on trying to be a responsible role model is to just try and be real and be me. And I make mistakes too. I'm not perfect, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes you so admirable to the average Joe, so to speak. Like, you have some people on social media that they only show the best sides of their life, and that's nice, and it's nice because you want to feel those highs, but at the same time there's no highs without lows, otherwise you'd just be plateaued and then you wouldn't achieve anything. So yeah, I completely agree.
Are you a brand seeking an influencer to enhance trust and visibility with your audience? Or are you an elite athlete eager to feature in advertisements or promote products on social media? We're a unique platform connecting top-tier athletes with brands for impactful partnerships in your area. For brand managers, we simplify dealings with athletes and celebrities. For athletes, we offer opportunities to collaborate with like-minded brands. With a strong global community, Sport Endorse is your gateway to success. www.sportendorse.com, where brands can book a free demo on the platform, while athletes can sign up for free.
Obviously, you have these massive adventures, the Dakar, this sort of thing. How do you prepare for these adventures? What's the routine like beforehand?
Well, from the day I put in my entry to this most recent race, I started having night terrors, freaking out, like legit, really psychologically freaking out about the fact that I've even put my name down, let alone been on the start line. So just to re-emphasize to people, I'm not like some crazy superhuman. This stuff is huge, and it scared me. I had so much imposter syndrome, of whether I'm good enough. I'm in a field nearly every time of competitors that is 99% male. And you're the tiny little blonde chick with stupidly long natural eyelashes, and it's very easy to feel like you shouldn't be there or you're not good enough. Most of the competitors were nearly double my size in weight and height as well. And I'm on the same size bike, same kit, same distances. There's no women's class. You're just doing it like everybody else. And so my way of really trying to work through that imposter syndrome and kind of get myself to the start line is preparation. Absolutely everything that I could do to get myself there with as much confidence as I can, because I was prepared and I was ready. And it's the same for if I have to, go into a corporate job and speak. I'm always going to get nervous, but doing the preparation up front so that when you are there, you can go, come on, Vanessa, you're ready, you're prepared, you know what you're doing. My fitness. Absolutely critical. Being on a bike for hours and hours, day after day, you've got to be fit. What you're putting into your body, your nutrition, your fuel. You're burning 6,000 to 8,000 calories a day. You can get that nutrition wrong for a day. Maybe you'll cope. 2 days you get that wrong, you're going to lose muscle mass. And you're going to be absolutely knackered, and you'll start having problems. You're going to be coming off the bike. You're not going to make it. So making sure I had tried and tested nutrition was huge. All of my kit and equipment. Getting into a race and on day 2 realizing that your rucksack's not right for you. You have to test everything in advance. Know everything that you've got. Plan for all of the unexpected. Hope that you'll be plan A, plan B most of the race, but you've got a plan for C, D, E, F, and maybe even M, all the different eventualities. Worst case scenario, or what could go wrong. So like my medical box was huge. It was like, my med box was probably the size of like 5 shoe boxes of all the different eventualities of things that I could maybe need. Because when you're in the desert, you can't just get stuff from the obvious things like antibiotic courses through to Germalines and throat lozenges, like the amount of dust you're inhaling. You end up with nosebleeds every morning and night for the amount your like nose is getting sore from the dust. You get sores on your body from like the friction of things. And there's just so much that you just need to plan for. Allergic reactions. I got an allergic reaction. One of them, I could barely open my eyes one morning. I was like so puffed up. I looked like the Michelin Man, having stuff to counter that. And I made it on the start line, the first 70k until the anti-inflammatory things kicked in. It was like I could barely see, but I was there to finish that race. And so it's that preparation so that when you get there, you've thought of everything that could happen, but you're also ready. I was fit enough. I had the right skill. I had the navigation. I had the right team around me. I had the equipment, food. And then when your body starts to go, you shouldn't be here. You need to go home. You need to quit. You can't do this. You can talk to yourself and go, yes, I can, because I've done this, and we're ready. Let's go and do it.
Has there ever been an adventure or a race that you haven't finished?
So the Tunisia Desert Challenge, I finished it. I was the first female to ever enter and the first female to ever make the finish line, but it was not smooth sailing. There is a full YouTube series on my channel, but on day 3 I had a mechanical, and that led to me being stuck in the sand dunes overnight on my own in the middle of nowhere. You have to carry emergency equipment, so I was able to light a little fire. I spent half an hour trying to gather anything I could possibly burn. It gets really cold in the desert overnight. It's pitch black. It's terrifying. There are little creeper coalies and bugs. The boogeyman, the Sandman, is definitely real. And so I knew I couldn't even stay in my house home alone without, if my husband was away, I had to borrow my mum and dad's dog to stay in the house. So being on my own in the sand dunes in the middle of Tunisia, hundreds of kilometers from anywhere, that was like guaranteed panic attacks. But I basically kept myself really calm. I do a lot of mindfulness to cope with my pain. And I analysed the situation. It was like, you're okay, Vanessa. You're not hurt. The organisers know where you are. They're going to come and get you. You've got a fire. You're not going to get cold. The animals aren't going to come near you. It's not going to get dark. You're okay. And I actually managed to remain really calm. When they came and got me, which was 7.5 hours later, I was in the dark for that long, they were like, what? Okay, we're going to tell everyone else you were a damsel in distress waiting for us, because we prioritized coming to get you because you were you're the girl, and you've got a fire? And apparently they'd never seen anyone else light a fire. And I was like, well, why else did we have to carry a lighter? I'm not a smoker. It was just kind of me going into survival mode. Anyway, we got me back to the bivouac, 3.5 hour rescue in the car, back to bivouac. I had 2 hours sleep, back on the start line the following day. My mechanic fixed my bike. And 4.5 hours into the next day, I had another mechanical. And this time I was stuck in the dunes again, but 48 degrees heat. Your body starts to shut down at that kind of temperature. I had water and food, but my body went into a bad way. And again, I was doing the mindfulness and I was okay. I was like, analyze the situation, Vanessa. It's really easy to freak out being stuck in the dunes on your own, but actually I was okay. And then I realized I wasn't okay. It felt like I had a helmet on and someone was just smacking me on the head with a branch. Like it felt like my brain was going to implode. I was getting really disorientated. I realized I could barely even walk anymore and my body was shutting down. So I called the emergency button for help because I realized actually I'm not okay. And someone died in the race a couple of days before from a similar situation. So I got heli-vac'd out. And I apparently hit the button a little bit too late. It was quite scary and I nearly didn't make it, but they sorted me out. And the following day, my bike was recovered from the desert. I wasn't allowed to race medically because of the scenario. And the next night, my bike was fixed. I was ready to go. I was in bed and I woke up and had a massive night terror about being stuck in the desert for the 3rd time. And I actually then decided that I was done and I'd bitten off more than I could chew, that I wasn't ready. And I was going to just, go find the organisers in the morning and just say, I'm out. I'm pulling out of the race. I can't do it. I'm sorry. Eventually managed to get myself back to sleep. That like adrenaline you get from a nightmare. Woke up in the morning and I was like, where's my bike? Off I went, back on the start line, back out into the desert. I'd signed up. I knew it was going to be hard. You don't do these races because they're easy. And I just kept fighting. And thankfully, I managed to find the strength to make it to the finish line and became the first female to ever finish that event. So I don't say it was an event that I didn't finish, but I could very easily have not finished that race. But I was determined, possibly stubborn. I don't know. I fought and made it to the finish line.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's an incredible story to sort of tell now, but during that moment must have been, unbelievably scary, as you said. So those sort of experiences, I'm sure, that lead to valuable lessons. Is there any of those lessons that you sort of bring back into your personal life?
Oh, yeah, massively. I mean, on a really simple level, I can now be home alone in my house. I don't even have to lock the doors. I don't have to close curtains. I can go for a run in the woods in the pitch black in the evening when my husband's out. The perspective shift of being stuck in the sand dunes, like, what's going to get me in my own home? The boogeyman, I'm not scared of you anymore because I survived the dunes on my own. The whole fighting to keep going, I often sort of picture it like street lights. So in the dunes, one of the days was 90 kilometers of dunes. And dunes can be 400 meters high, like they're colossal. It's deep sand, there's big crests. And in Tunisia, the sand was really, really soft. So it was very, very hard. And there was a period of dunes where I was having to ride them 2 or 3 peaks at a time. It was like, come on, let's just do 3 more dunes. Let's just do 1 more dune. And I'd try and go, down and up. And then I'd stop on the top and I'd have a rest, get my heart rate down again. Right, come on, Vanessa, 2 more dunes. And it's about breaking it up into those smaller chunks. And often when I'm looking at my to-do list or like the clothes that are like Vanessa bombed all over my bedroom floor, it's a case of, I can't pick up all these clothes. Come on, do 5 items. Just do 5 and make a chip at it. And then if you need to go make a cup of tea and come back and do the next 5 items of mess, or look at your to-do list, just do a couple of bits, make progress. And it's amazing how once you make a little bit of progress, you get more energy. And then you're like, you know what? I could pick another 3 tops up right now. And then before you know it, your room's tidy or you've conquered a few things on your to-do list. So I think that's like massively something that has helped me. I do a lot of driving around, going to corporate jobs or the schools. So I've got 2 schools this week again. And my mum's always like, oh, that's a long drive. You're in the car for 2 or 3 hours. You better make sure you stop every hour and a half and have a break. And I'm just like, Mum, I could do 10, 12 hours on a motorbike in the desert in a comfy seat in the car with the radio on. I can keep riding. It's so, driving, sorry. It's so much, it's just changed my perspective on what's hard. And what's like a real endurance.
Yeah, so I guess you've got a main goal, but then you compartmentalize it into smaller goals to achieve that main goal. Is
massively. Sort of I always talk about elephant goals. You need that big elephant that you cannot eat whole, but if you take it a few bites at a time, you'll eventually eat it.
I haven't heard that sort of connotation before, but yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you have any role models or influences that have sort of got you where you are today?
I'm often asked this, and I think the reality is that when I was growing up, we didn't have any female role models out there. Like Jodie Marsh or Katie Price were like the women in the media. They weren't exactly people that we would be looking up to. I think you're going to vomit a little bit, but I think I'd probably say my mum. So as a young kid from the age of maybe 6 for about 5 years, my mum had a lot of health issues and she was hospitalized for long periods. She had a couple of surgeries where she actually said goodbye to us because there was a 50-50 she'd come out. And she always found the strength to keep going. Like she looked for things to keep her focused and energized, and she just never gave up. And she's done such incredible things. And if an area of life didn't work out, then she'd just retrain and go do something else. And she'd always tackle it with a smile and energy. She's like that bubbly, happy, non-defeatable human. And I think that's really inspired me over the years. She was a very strong power through my life, and my goodness, she believes in me now, and that's an incredible energy to have behind me.
So I guess also, how do you do all these adventures? I'm sure you're off for a few months every year. How do you balance your personal life with what you're doing now?
Yeah, really good question. I do remember what my husband looks like, so that helps. Last year I think 2 and 3 nights I was away. It's it's full on. I think this year I'm trying to find a slightly better balance for a bit more time at home. I guess a key thing is that I enjoy what I do so much that it doesn't feel like I'm working all the time. I think to some of my closer friends and my husband, they just think I never stop working, but it doesn't feel like work to me. And I suppose every time I share my story or I speak to people as well, it gives me energy that helps me go through the justification of why it had to happen to me. And it's like, if I can use my story and the fact that I've got ongoing pain and all of that to try and help someone else conquer life, that makes what I've gone through feel worthwhile. So I'm just energized to keep going. And at the moment, I don't really want to change too much. I'm enjoying it and I'm alive. I'm not in the bed.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you've come a long way. Why stop now, I guess? So going forward, what are your sort of expectations for this year? Like, what do you want to achieve, adventure-wise or goal-wise in general?
Okay, so I have no motorbike races in the calendar, and that is because I've had to be quite realistic with myself about my pain, and I've pushed my body a really long way. It's taken me a year to be able to say this without getting emotional, but my hip's not great. And that's why I'm very excited by the fact that I'm now doing the rally car driving as well, because I'm not quitting. I'm not leaving motorsports or the competitive environment. I'm adapting. My body can't keep fighting. My brain can't keep fighting the pain on the motorcycle, but the car is a whole new chapter. It's absolutely incredible, mind-blowing. Motorbikes helps me. There's a big transition. So I've got 4 big races with Land Rover Bowler in my rally car this year. And that's in the Defender 90. So I've got one in France, Spain, Iceland, my favorite country, yay, and also Romania. And my longer term goal over the next, year, 2 years is to get into a desert race in a car. So I'm on a big drive to try and, raise sponsorship and increase my capability, skill in the car, all that side of things. I'm continuing my schools program. So my goal is to, speak to another 10,000 students this year. And I am also in the process of writing a book, which will give people hopefully a lot of energy of the lessons through my recovery. It's not a biography or anything. It's more of a very much more detailed version of my corporate speaking, very tangible things that anybody, not motorcycle world, any realms of life can take and apply to the stuff that they're going through in life. And I think that's a really important one with my corporate speaking. It is not a motorsports industry talk at all. A lot of the time the audience is, I often say, has anyone in the audience got a motorbike or any connection? And you get very few hands. And there's sometimes this little thing where like, oh, I'm not going to enjoy this. She's into motorbikes. I don't really do motorbikes. And by the end, they're just like, that wasn't a talk about motorbikes. And motorbikes are quite cool. So, yeah, I've got quite a lot going on this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that you've sort of adapted and you haven't pushed your body to the complete limit, if you know what I mean, that you then have to take a step backwards. You've adapted before that happens, which, I mean, takes guts in itself to realize that. And then transition. But you're talking about your corporate speaking. You've obviously won an award. You're an award winner. You've done a TEDx talk, which is great. What was the award for specifically? So obviously, I know it's for motivational speaking.
A motivational speaker in like the southeast or something. So it was in a regional area. So
well, yeah,
pretty pleased with that.
Also, yeah. So your hashtag Because I Can movement is obviously very encouraging. You speak about it a lot. How do you plan to sort of convey a message that reconciles a go-getter attitude with something that is still safe and sustainable for younger girls in the schools and that sort of thing?
I think the key thing for the young minds in the schools, male or female, is about realizing that actually anything is possible if they want to make it happen. And I think one of the really eye-opening moments is I say to them that, if you look around the world at, the astronauts, the football players, the solicitors, the lawyers, no matter where you look in the world at these people doing absolutely incredible, extraordinary things, they are absolutely normal humans just like you and me. There is nothing special about them. They are normal humans like us. And their little faces like, what? No, they're not. They're like astronauts. The only difference is that they've set their goal and they've got up every single day and they've worked towards it. They've adapted, they've overcome hurdles, they've picked themselves back up, they've learned from those setbacks, and they've kept on fighting. And they absolutely can do the same thing as well. And I think as a female going into schools, into corporates, it's quite powerful because you get a lot of guys doing cool stuff and sharing the story. But typically a young girl isn't going to look at a guy doing something and go, oh, well, if he's doing it, I can do it. But a young girl can absolutely look at me doing it and think, well, if she can do it, I can do it, especially because I'm slightly broken, reconstructed, and have pain. Like I'm not like a superwoman doing these things. But then also the guys can look at me and be like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. So it's like an extra element of power. But I think the sort of the stereotype of, motorcycles are reckless and dangerous, and should we be talking about them in schools to young minds? All I can say to that is that I'm not going into schools and telling these young kids that they should ride motorbikes. I'm going into these schools and telling them I'm a professional at something that I love doing. I built a business out of it. I went to school. I went to uni. I did a master's. I worked in marketing for 10 years. And now I'm doing some really incredible stuff. But I've had some crazy setbacks and obstacles. I'm utilizing social media as a platform for a business, which immediately to them is like you're talking their language. Social media is like the currency of younger generations in some way. And I'm standing there and telling them they can do absolutely anything they want to do. If they want to get on a motorcycle and go do it, then amazing. But if they want to just get up and try and, ride their BMX or do better in their video game or fight a bit harder to get an A in their GCSE result, be kinder to their friend, support their mum more at home, whatever energy it is they get out of it. That's what I'm there to do, and try and help them realize that the future is actually really exciting and really bright.
Yeah, so you're not going into schools and telling them that they have to become a motorbike rider because you obviously get so much enjoyment. You're going in there and you're showing them that actually whatever they enjoy, however niche or however common it is, they have the ability if they work hard and, if they try really hard, they can achieve that no matter the setbacks. So I guess what specifically do you say is like sort of your main advice for someone stuck in a potential rut in their life? Because you're talking about compartmentalizing. Maybe the goal for one day is getting out of bed, and then the next day is getting out of bed, going outside, that sort of thing. Is there anything specific you normally talk about?
I think on top of, I talk a lot about your mindset, and that's quite detailed, and the focus on where your mind is. It's very easy to be a victim, to be in denial about our scenario, be angry at people around us. The accident, it's not fair, why me, give up. Everything's a result of other people. Actually, there's always things that we can do to try and help ourselves, to try and grow, to adapt, to shift things. Like, what can you do in your situation? I think that's a really important one to focus on. And then gratitude. It sounds so simple, but there's always things that we wish we could be doing or wish we could have, or things could be changed. But actually, in every moment, even when you are bedbound, hurting, and can't get to the toilet on your own, there are things that we can be grateful for. And those tiny little things, like, do you remember the feeling when you put your feet into fresh bed sheets? When the bed's been changed?
Yeah.
How good that feeling is. Oh my goodness, you can get a little bit of an uplift, even though you're stuck in bed and you can't get out on your own. Like, you just got put back in the bed. How good does that feeling? What about listening to the birds outside your bedroom window, or putting on some of your favorite music, cuddling your teddy bear, having like a mouthful of mango, whatever your favorite food is? Little things in your day. You can be in the darkest place, but if you can just find a couple of things to latch onto to give yourself an uplift, do a couple of things, even if you have to force yourself to find the energy, a couple of things that will help you move forwards just a little bit. You can't climb a mountain in a day, in a leap and a step, but small things just to keep your momentum moving forwards. And then the other really important thing to remember is that you are not the only one going through really tough situations. I think social media can be really tricky there because it portrays this like perfect life, and life isn't perfect. We all have struggles and battles, and that's normal. Realizing and remembering that you're not on your own is really important. Like, asking for help is a sign of strength. It's not a weakness. It's a strength, asking for help. I asked for help massively through my recovery. I went through a lot of support on my mental health side of things, and I'm proud of that. So the mindset, the gratitude, and the help.
Yeah, I think you've touched on something there which sometimes I definitely know I struggle with, and I think it's called spotlight syndrome, where you just believe, obviously, because you're you and you're one person, that you believe everyone's looking at you, whether you do something wrong, that it's yourself, you've done this, it's awful. But in reality, everyone's worried about themselves. No one realistically is worried about what you're doing. Everyone's exactly the same as you. They're all worried about yourself. So just move on, and it's not as bad as you may think it is.
Yeah, very true.
But yeah, so I'll move on to the Sport Endorse's Fast Five. The 5 quick questions. Try and answer them as quick as you can. I know people say this all the time, and then you get the question, you have to think about it, but just try and be as quick as you possibly can. So I'll start off with, if you could be another athlete, who would you be?
The fitter version of myself. So the one I'm fighting for.
That's a great answer. What is a brand you use that you wouldn't be expected to use?
A brand I use that I wouldn't be expected.
Like
a moon cup.
Like an item. Okay. If you were not an athlete, what would you be?
Oh, I'd be an account director in marketing, which was what I was doing before I became an athlete.
I mean, that does make sense. What is your favourite movie?
Oh, The Lion King. Or Black Beauty. I like both of them.
I literally watched The Lion King with my family.
Please, no worries.
Yesterday. And then lastly, what is your party trick?
Oh, for a while my party trick was bouncing my shoulder, because it would, like, before it was reconstructed, you could like move it around. I could touch my elbows behind my back. It's a bit of a lame party trick. Don't come to a party with me.
I mean, okay. And then, lastly, would you please leave a question for our next guest? Whatever you think.
Question for our next guest. Does that mean I'm going to have to ask the question from the last guest?
Unfortunately, you're my first guest, so I haven't done that before. But this is
okay. Question for this is a big question.
I know. Take your time. Don't waste it. It's only one.
If you could go back in time through history and stop one thing from happening, what would you stop from happening?
Wow. Great question.
I know my answer.
As you're the first one, how would you answer that question yourself?
I would stop plastic from being invented, or stop plastic from being rolled out in the use that it is being used now. And I would have made us wait and find something that would be better suited for the lots of different use cases, as opposed to one big thing that's just destroying a lot of stuff.
Yeah, incredible. Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I think you are an amazing role model and a shining example of never giving up, no matter what life throws at you. I wish you all the best in whatever challenge you have next. Obviously, you're the now on 4 wheels instead of 2. And yeah, for everyone at home, all of Vanessa's links will be in the bio below. So make sure to go follow her. And until next time, goodbye. Thank you for watching the Athlete Sit Down, brought to you by Sport Endorse. To book any of our athletes featured on our podcast, contact us via our website, www.sportendorse.com, or via our email, hello@sportendorse.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming episodes.